Thank you so much, Christina. Christina helped organize my very first Chaperone event at Outline last year, and I'm so grateful for her support and that she was willing to do this all over again. Thank you, everyone at Substack, for making this event possible, as well as the entire Printemps team for being such gracious hosts, especially David, Hannah, and Kyron, and everyone working late tonight. I really appreciate it. This was the first choice of store I really didn't want to do anywhere else, so I'm really glad that they said yes. So thank you guys again. And I would like to thank the panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules to be here. It means so much to me. We even have people coming from the Rachel Comey show as we speak, so it's going to be, it'll be we're on the edge of our seats if the panelists are actually on time. I also want to thank the audience, you guys, for coming to Wall Street on a Monday night and missing the Hyde concert. I appreciate it. The whole point of Shop Rat is going to stores and talking to people. So this is really my dream come true, and I really want to do more events like this in the future. So I'm so glad that you guys are all here. I'm gonna dive right in because we're short on time. There's lots to discuss, including the fact that my outfit for tonight was stuck in customs for 3 weeks. So I feel like that really just sets the tone for why we're all here and the topic of tonight's discussion. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get up on this chair gracefully. Okay. All right. So I have such beautiful panelists to my right. I want to make you introduce. Let's see. All right. On the end, we have Kathleen Sorbara of Sorbara's New York, a vintage store in Brooklyn. Her shop is my go-to for Agassi Sam cardigans, and I'm seeing a few of them in the audience. So now you know where to go. And Armani, RMP, and she also has a ton of amazing Barney's New York, etc. And next we have Gregory Gourdet, a Queens-born, James Beard Award-winning chef bringing some Haitian American flavor to Printemps, New York, where he serves as culinary director. You can get all of this earlier on. Then we have Somsack Sikhounmuong, the creative director of Alex Mill and the author of Somstack on Substack. You might recognize him from the Alex Mill Instagram, but he started at J. Crew designing socks and is now BFFs with Mickey Drexler. And then we have Katherine Lewin, the founder of Bake Night, a dinner party essential store with locations in Brooklyn, the West Village, and one coming soon. I will not spill the beans, I almost did. She's also the writer of Little Gems on Substack, and if you attended the Shop Rat event last year, which I know that many of you did, you might recall the hilarious story she told about losing her pants at the Rachel Comey apple sale and getting them back. You can read about that on Shop. All right, so let's kick this off. What time is it? We are good. Okay, so I wanted to start off with a core shopping memory of yours, whether it's like the first store you went to with your parents or maybe alone, but a core shopping memory that has shaped what you currently do. Does anyone want to start? Otherwise,
I'll go.
Thanks.
I have to start with the mall. As a kid, the mall in the 90s, the 80s, it was, we didn't have that much money, so every time we went, it wasn't even a matter of leaving with stuff. It was just hanging out at the food court or seeing what the other kids were wearing, movie theater. So shopping wasn't just about getting stuff. It's like being around people, just doing stuff. So I love malls. Well, I miss them. Use a few more.
Where was the mall that you were?
Oh, some big town in Canada. Very small. The mall fashion shows probably a very big part of why I'm just out today. Yeah.
Gregory, were you eating at malls?
Definitely malls. Green Acres Mall. It's where we grew up, and we went there quite often. I think our highest level of gastronomy there was probably Sorbara. So really, not much leading into our experience here at Printemps. But that was definitely something that, again, we didn't grow up with a lot of money either, and my parents worked really hard. So it was always like a special occasion or like an outbuilding you put to get things. And I think the opposite of that is like the first time I walked into Valencia, I never day with I shot there.
When was that?
That was like a few years ago, and I LA on my advisor. But yeah, so that's like complete opposite end of the spectrum, I would say, coming from Queens.
Oh, sorry, yes. Oh, that's sure, right.
I would say my first shopping memory would be actually behind the counter. When I was a little kid, I used to sit behind the counter at my grandma's boutique / beauty salon and ring people up. I must have been like 7 years old, if not younger. So very vivid memories of just like clacking the buttons on the back end of things, which I guess I'm still doing today.
Okay. I think one of the first, not just shopping memories, but like actual core memories I have is the first time I went into a department store that no longer exists in LA called I Magnin. And I still, when I walk into Printemps, I get that same feeling of like, there's so much to look at and there's so much to see and I want to touch everything. And I remember being like 4 and like literally like buzzing around the entire floor. Like I lost my mom, I didn't care. Like I was just so absorbed in the world that you walk into when you walk into a store like this.
I love this. I remember coming down here to go to Century 21 with my mom, who's here, and the fitting rooms at Century 21. If you survived a fitting room at Century 21, you know what I'm talking about, and you will be scarred from that experience. So we've all come far.
I think 90s early odds Century 21 was the best.
Yes, yeah. So I guess we all have shopping memories, but the sort of general question that I want to talk to you guys about today is what a modern store looks like. And I think that, you know, this can be rooted in what each one of you is working on, and I love that you're all doing such different things. Gregory, I thought it'd be fun to start with you because I'm really curious about, I just feel like the combination of food, restaurants and retail is something that everyone's trying to do in their own way right now, and I'm curious like how you approached bringing the culinary experience to Printemps and melding these two worlds.
Sure. Well, dining in retail is nothing new, but I do think just as we've seen kind of like hotel restaurants kind of get more popular and kind of finer dining and kind of more established, I do believe that we're seeing the same trend in kind of retail spaces or food and beverage outlets that we're putting into their retail spaces. And you see this in a lot of the cafes and such in some of our luxury stores around the world. When I joined this project, they were very, very set on creating a hospitality experience. And before we opened, and while we opened, our whole motto was not a department store because the focus was truly to be a hospitality experience where, you know, you can come in, you can drop off your stroller, you can, you know, grab a glass of champagne and, you know, someone will walk you around the store. And really, you know, there's a food and beverage outlet in every part of this store. You know, you start with the cafe downstairs, you know, you get your morning cup of coffee, come up here, you have like our beautiful raw bar, you keep walking, we have like our beautiful champagne bar, then the red room bar, and then maison passerelle. So it's really this whole experience where there's clothes and there's objects and beautiful things all tied in with food. And it's very interesting because what I've noticed is there's actually 2 types of guests. There's the guest that's coming specifically to dine, but then there's the guest that's coming specifically to shop. And that helps you double actually who is coming, who your audience is, because, you know, the people that can afford a $1,000, you know, pair of sneakers, may not be are probably different than people who can't. And like, you know, maybe more people can afford potentially a $7 cup of coffee every day and they'll be here every day. And the person who's going to buy that $1,000 pair of sneakers, maybe they come once a month, once a week, you know, so it's pretty cool, you know, and it's been very interesting to see who comes here for the food and who comes to shop and who goes to dinner with a green Printemps bag. And it's been just really cool to be able to just offer something to anyone who's in the store.
For sure. I think the first thing I did when I walked in was I bought a chocolate chip cookie, and it was really good. But I feel like that's really, I judge a store by the quality of their chocolate chip cookies.
Gluten-free, dairy-free.
Yeah, I also, and then I came up the escalator, and it was 11 a.m. and the bar was packed and people were drinking, and I was like, they're gonna be fine. Catherine, I thought you would be a good person to follow up because your store also blends. It's it's dinner party essentials, but it's blending food and shopping. Yeah. What does a modern store look like to you?
I think a modern store, and this I think goes back to the hospitality theme, feels less like a place where transactions happen and more like a place where you step in and you are experiencing something, a feeling, a sense, a smell. Sadly, there's no food at my shop, so I have my wish list. But I think, between the goods that we carry, yes, but also the spaces that we create, like building that world for people to walk into and experience is sort of at the core of what I do with Big Night. And for me, like obviously I have a business to run. Yes, I hope people will want to buy the things, but what I really want most as a shop owner is for them to walk in and feel like, I'm so glad I came in here, even if it was just to like take a beat, look at some pretty things on the shelves and walk out feeling later or delighted, or I chatted with somebody about their favorite olive oil and it was a stranger and now I want to make what they're making for dinner tonight. I think so much, as you were saying, about in-store feelings and experiences has to do with in real life connections. And I think like especially in, the AI digital blah blah world of today, like we go into stores because we want to have human connection. And that could just be like you petting some cashmere alone in the corner, but it could also mean like, you chatting with, what did you call it? Your client, your client advisor, a person who knows a lot about shoes or bags. And even if you're not going to buy a shoe or a bag, you want to learn more about why it is that you love that thing so much and you want to talk to somebody about it. So I think that was a long-winded way of saying, I think stores are for experiences, and those experiences, I think, are really human experiences.
Yeah, you have such a robust event lineup too. I feel like if you guys wanted to, you could go to an event at Big Night like every night of the week, maybe.
And like I started a dinner party shop, and I remember like day 2, a customer was checking out, and they go, "So are you gonna have events?" And I looked at them like this, because somehow I had started a dinner party shop and I hadn't thought about events. I literally had not thought about events, but this was in late 2021, and it sounds so idiotic coming out of my mouth, but of course, that moment, what people wanted most was an opportunity to gather. So like, yes, in the store, but also with people that might also be walking into that store.
Yeah, I think this word is used a lot, but I do think community is modern retail. I think that, look around right now. I think we're all seeking out a human connection, like Catherine's talking about. And I'm validated every day when I'm in the store, just talking to people. And yes, the retail, of course, is there, and we live in a society, but we got to make money somehow. But yeah, I think community just gets the ball rolling in regards to retail. Yeah.
And I love what you're doing on Substack. I feel like it allows me to, and also just the Alex Mill. I don't know if you guys follow Alex Mill, but your social, they're so funny. They're so you feel like you get to know everyone who works there. You're in the office, and it's really fun. So I guess to me, a modern store also is like not just in the store, but on socials and on Substack. And I'm just curious, like how you guys are.
Yeah, Alex Mill is a small brand that we don't sort of hide from that. We sort of cherish it and sort of live by it. And so our social media accounts and our store are just extensions of that belief that small is the new big, and we think big but act small, making sure that everything we do is a very personal touch point. And so when you see our Instagram, or when you see one of our dance videos, or when you see our behind the scenes, whether you're traveling from, let's say, London, maybe when you walk by our store, you're like, oh gosh, I need to get in there because we've somehow found our way into your hearts, your minds, in some crazy way so that when you get to the store, it's just sort of an extension of what we do, what the brand is. So the stores, for me, the best stores are sort of an extension of who the Raven is. Just another selling point for the online store.
And Kathleen, I feel like I wanted to talk a little bit more too about vintage, because you're the only vintage person on this panel. How the vintage market has just like exploded, obviously, in the last few years. I'm wearing vintage that I pieced together over multiple years from the real. But yeah, how are you thinking about how to make vintage modern? I guess
Yeah, I mean, I think vintage is modern. But I also think that when I started about 10 years ago, it was an alternative to like fast fashion. And I think now it's just an alternative to fashion, period. I mean, I went shopping today trying to find an outfit and I ended up just wearing something from my own store. So, but everything was $1,000. Like a top pair of pants was all $1,000. So I think vintage is that alternative where it's like, what we're offering is what Sorbara's offers is an elevated vintage experience. So, you know, at a $500 to $300 price point, you're getting a lavish pair of Armani pants, as opposed to, I don't know, acetate. That's $1,000. So, to put it bluntly.
No, yeah, totally. Does anyone want to follow up on that, or I can go to the next question?
We actually we sell vintage glassware at Big Night, and I have to say that we almost started selling it by accident. Like right when we opened the store, we had a couple shelves that I couldn't afford enough inventory to fill, and I was like, what am I going to put there? And I had a bunch of clear, like crystal vintage coupes that I had accumulated over the years. And I just sort of threw them on the shelf, and I thought, like, well, maybe people will think it's like a display. I didn't think people would be interested in buying them. Again, dumb. And not only were they interested, but like they were ravenous for the vintage. And I think there's like something about that goes hand in hand with what we're talking about around human touch. Like the idea that someone sourced that for you. Like when I go in your store, I don't just buy the jacket because I love the jacket. I buy the jacket because somebody who's really good at curation found that jacket and put it on the shelf, and now it even speaks to me more because I'm seeing it through your eyes too. I think the curation element, her store is so good if you haven't been. I think the curation element of vintage is really feels personal in a way that is just super compelling.
For sure. And if you guys haven't been here and you explore later, there's Vintage Stop. They have an amazing curation of vintage too. My last question before I open it to the audience is what makes a store a New York store specifically? Obviously, Printemps is it's Boston, Paris, but this store feels very New York to me. You all have, you've lived either from New York or you've lived here for a long time. I'm just curious, like, what that means to you.
Attitude.
Say more.
Oh, I was in a breakfast restaurant one time, and this guy was just telling someone off who deserved to be told off, and that's just New York. Like, I just love that. That's what, and there's the other side of the spectrum for that. There's really wonderful experiences to be had, but yeah, I think attitude and humor is so important.
Yeah, and that can come into your curation too, right? Or like
totally
curate your store.
Yeah, but
You have an attitude whenever people look.
No, attitude in a positive way too. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to tack on to that too, because I was on the phone with Verizon this weekend trying to return my cable box, and the options were either wait for an hour to talk to someone or schedule an appointment for 4 days later just to return the cable box. So I just called the store, literally, and the guy was so matter of fact. He was like, just bring it down, blah, blah, blah. So I just think New Yorkers, like at our store, we want to get things down. We want to get you something. We'll get it to you. And just that sense of immediacy. I think you don't always find in other stores in other cities, but the helpfulness, I think New Yorkers are really good at that.
For sure.
I think it's interesting how spaces can change neighborhoods as well, or just become a part of the neighborhood. And I've been really lucky, and one of the cool things about working here is seeing people who are part of this community, people who actually live here, because this neighborhood has definitely changed definitely since 9/11, definitely since 2020, since the pandemic. But people are just excited to have this here, not only for the retail and fashion options, but also for the dining. And we have tons of regulars, and they're part of our community within the store. But it's very interesting to be at this address, One Wall Street, and like historically what was here prior. And if we want to go really, really back, what was like really, really here, and like what the stock was, and like all that bad stuff that happened. And we are kind of like reclaiming that history in a lot of different ways. One of my goals is always to kind of like highlight underserved foods. And I work for a French company, proudly French, but I thought it was like really important to be able to tell a few more stories around the French-speaking world. And that's representing the food that we serve here from North Africa, West Africa, the Caribbean, Haiti, French Asia. And that's all embedded in parts of the culinary experience here. And anyone from those countries can come and taste something that reminds them of home. So that becomes part of the circle of community and keeping people here.
What makes a New York store? I think it's the customers. I think it's the people that walk through the door. And we have 2 locations, one in Greenpoint and one in the West Village. And I'll tell just this group here, we're about to open on the Upper East Side as well. And, the reason why I'm passionate about, opening more locations is that what I really, really want is for my shop to be something that someone is really excited to have in their neighborhood. And New Yorkers are so, they're tough and there's attitude, but like they're also so happy to have you there. And I think like, I don't know, I've never owned a store outside of New York City, but I feel like I'm spoiled by the people here because they will walk in with intent. They will walk in with interest. They will walk in sometimes with skepticism. Like, what is this? What are you doing here? But I would so much rather that than, someone to just like kind of like pop in, pop out, not feel anything. Like New Yorkers walk in with a purpose, which I think is what everyone is saying here. And I think when you are building a retail store, when you're building goods, building clothes, you want people to have a reaction to that. And you certainly get that owning a store in New York, for sure.
I see the Rachel Comey people have arrived, I think. Thank God, you guys just made me so much less anxious. But that means that I think we have time for like 2 audience questions for this panel. Your hand went right up. Go ahead. Give you the mic. Or you're close.
I can try for that. First of all, thank you so much for the Big Night in West Village. It has saved me in so many like last minute posts here. Like moments and I'm like, okay, I've been dinner party in an hour, I need some sort of gift.
Thank you for saying that. That's the best feedback I could get. Thank you.
But my question for the panelists is, my big takeaway from this conversation is that the only experiences that will survive these will be bespoke experiences. So with lower end / low stake bookstores, there's a marginal difference between online ordering and going to the store. Those are not going to get thing anymore. And it's kind of a similar thing that we've seen in media, where the social experiences like Substack, where it feels like it's brand / author driven. Those are premium, whereas online ordering is basically practically speaking, where you don't care where it comes from. So that's like the parallel that I'm drawing. What do you guys think?
Go for it. I feel like I hit the buzzer and now I don't know what to say. Great question. Awesome question. I think that local American-made things, engaging with your local economy and community, are things that have always meant so much to me, and that's really why I opened a store. And I think that hopefully with the AI, there's a counterculture to this kind of lowbrow, I guess, thing that's happening. And I feel it as a store owner. there's so much feedback happening where people just are so happy to be able to like touch, like you're saying, and just engage and have a conversation. Like, I think COVID, you know, like RIP opening ceremony, that was such a cool space. When I was a kid running around New York, like I remember going in there and a guy was playing a radio station. I was like, what is this? This is such a cool radio station. Just song after song after song is so awesome. And he put me on to Selection Radio, and from there I started listening to that. And I just feel like, yeah, I think that answered it.
I was just thinking too, just making sure that the place is a destination of sorts or a little unexpected. I remember going to Antwerp probably in the early 2000s, and there was a store called Veronique Branchino. I don't know if people remember, but look it up. It was the most beautiful store. Outside, it was just photos of trees. That was the store. And then you walked in, and it was a living room. It was an apartment with just clothes hanging out. Just like you could take these windy stairs upstairs, and you walk around and look down. I think just making sure, I think with all the online stuff, I just want to be able to go to the store and be surprised and just have it feel different, or even like walk into, or not even know what I'm walking into. I think that's probably one of the best things about some of the great stores I've been to.
Yeah, and I think that the parallel you drew between Substack and smaller stores is just, it feels personal. It feels like someone curated it just for you, as opposed to reading, you know, a larger publication that's trying to speak to so many different people. I think something that's really nice about Substack that I enjoy is that I am speaking to a much smaller audience. I feel like I know them. They feel like they know me. And I think that when you go into these smaller stores, you're getting, even if you don't know the owner personally, maybe you follow them on Instagram or something. Like it feels better and it feels like more intentional too when you're figuring out, okay, what am I going to do with my day? And yeah, I feel like that brings us very nicely into our next panel. And I promise there will be more time for questions too, but I want to keep it moving, and we are actually on time, which is amazing. So everyone please give a round of applause for these amazing panelists. Thank you guys so much. That was really great. Feel free, if you need a break, bathroom, whatever. We have a couple of, you have 60 seconds. But I will invite the next panel up here. Please, thank you.